welcome back to SWBA Today. And in today's episode, we're going to be looking at the SWBA scoreboard and looking at the key storylines from yesterday's games. We're also going to be looking at the SWBA standings. We're going to be talking about just some teams that have clinched and what that is going to look like in both the Eastern and the Western Conference as the SWBA playoffs approach here. So let's go ahead and jump into it and look at the scoreboard because, man, we had some good games that took place yesterday and some good storylines here. And so let's start with the first game, and that is going to be the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the New York Knicks. And so, look, the Knicks have been playing pretty well as of late. I talked about this last week where they had some bad losses, but the Cavs, look, they looked a little shaky, had some tough losses as well. They were on a little bit of a losing streak, but this is the Cavs team that we have been seeing really all year long. They really had a good burst here towards the end of the game. They scored 38 points in the third. They scored 33 points in the fourth. And really, this was all about Donovan Mitchell because Donovan Mitchell, he had 27 points. He had 5 assists and he had 6 rebounds. He was plus 20. Jarrett Allen had a very good game as well. He had 21 points and 8 rebounds. And more importantly for the Cavs, look, they cross a major milestone here because they have now won 61 games. That equals what they did in the 09-10 season. So 2009-2010 season there. That was LeBron James' final kind of stint with that team there. And so the franchise record, 66 wins, and that was during the 2008-2009 season. Still don't know how that team got beat by the Orlando Magic, but that did happen. But anyway, that just lets you know where the Cleveland Cavaliers are. And so I think that this was a huge win, for the Cavs to go ahead and win like this. And I think that for the Cavs, they need to close out on some good momentum. I still don't necessarily trust this team. And with the Knicks, look, I know that it is a tough loss, to a team that is at the top of the Eastern Conference, but you have to know that once you get Jalen Brunson back, you're going to get another dimension here with the New York Knicks. And so next up, we got the Indiana Pacers and the Charlotte Hornets. And look, this is all about the Indiana Pacers, and it's really all about how they're surging right now. And they actually clinched a playoff spot, which we're going to talk about that here in a moment when we look at the standings. But look, Tyrese Halliburton, he had 22 points in this. He had 10 assists. He had 2 steals. He had 2 blocks. He was plus 14. And oh, by the way, he had 0 turnovers. And so he had a fabulous game. He continues to be really a double-double machine. He had a highlight reel. It was like a bounce pass to Obi Toppin. It was a nice dunk there. And so definitely make sure you go check that out if you go back and look at the replay of this game. But yes, Tyrese Halliburton getting it done for the Pacers. And I just think that quiet as it's kept, the Pacers, to me, they're starting to look a lot like the team that they were a season ago as far as scoring the basketball. I think that the real challenge with them is going to be, can they get enough defensive stops? And I continue to say this, it's going to be about the supporting cast for the Indiana Pacers. It really is. It's going to be about Andrew Nembhard. It's going to be about Obi Toppin. It's going to be about, Thomas Bryant. These guys like that, they're going to have to step up for this Pacers team to make a deep run. And look, with the Charlotte Hornets, look, it is all about this upcoming draft for this team. I just think that, look, with the injuries to LaMelo Ball, you don't have Brandon Miller right now. This team is on a complete reset. And then I got to give a shout out to Mark Williams, who continues to play well for this team. Remember, he was in that rescinded trade with the Lakers. He had 16 points. He had 12 rebounds. Miles Bridges had 18 points and 5 assists and 4 rebounds too. So both of those guys have been playing pretty well for the Hornets. And so next up, the Sacramento Kings lose to the Wizards, 116-111 in this game. And so look, this is all about the Kings. I don't know what is going on with the Kings. They have not looked very good. In fact, when you look at just what they're doing here over the last 10 games, they're 3-7. They've lost 3 straight. And this is a Kings team that, look, even though they don't have De'Aaron Fox, they should still be a lot better team. You still have Keegan Murray. You still have Zach LaVine. You still have DeMar DeRozan. Sabonis, I know he has been out due to the injuries, but you should not be losing to the Wizards this late in the year. In fact, the Wizards, they put on a 34-point quarter in the fourth to really put the Kings away. The Kings put on a 34-point quarter in the fourth to try to get back into this. But with the Washington Wizards, they put a 36-point quarter on them in the third. So 36-point quarter for them in the third to really kind of put the Kings down. And then they did fight back, did the Kings. But still, you got to give the Wizards a lot of credit here. A young team. They're not really playing for anything. Alex Sarr, 15 points. He had 4 rebounds. He had an assist. He was +4. I think that, man, he is getting a ton of experience. Bub Carrington, he is a player that I'm super high on, especially, I think that this is a guy that can really be a triple-double threat. He had 19 points, 7 assists. He also had 2 rebounds as well, and he was +7. And so I definitely like him. And then A.J. Johnson, not a lot of people know who he is, but he was in that trade with the Milwaukee Bucks there that sent Chris Middleton over. And I think that when I saw him in the SWBA Summer League, I was very intrigued with what he could do. He's currently averaging 7 points a game, 2 rebounds, 2.5 assists, but he's a very young player. He was the 20th pick in this last draft. Actually, he was 23rd. I'm sorry, the 23rd pick in last season's draft. He's 20 years old. So he's a player that I definitely think that, fans should start to really look out for, because I think that he could really turn into something special here. And so the Washington Wizards, they got a lot of good young players. Can they put it together? A disappointing loss for the Kings. And so next up, you got the Miami Heat, 124-103 against the Celtics, getting it done here. And so don't look now, but the Miami Heat, look, they've been on a little bit of a heater, right? And so with the Heat, they won 6. They're 6-4 out of their last 10. But more importantly, I think that this is just a good quality win for the Miami Heat. I think that that's the bottom line here. You want to get some confidence. And I don't know if this team has necessarily had as much confidence since they've lost Jimmy Butler. They've been under, just kind of this eye really in the media because they've lost Jimmy Butler and they haven't really responded well. And I thought that this was really a staple win for them, trying to build some momentum. And so even though they're in the play-in situation, I think that you get a good contribution from Tyler Hero. He had 25 points in this. He was +19. He had 9 assists. Bam played well. He had 21 points, +13, 6 assists, and he also had 5 rebounds. And this is a good win because, look, they had Jason Tatum, and they also had Jaylen Brown out there. So Jaylen Brown had 24. You had Jason Tatum. He only had 6 in this one. They didn't have Porzingis out there, and so, you do have to factor that in. But still, it's a very good Celtics team that you knocked down. So I think a very good quality win for the Miami Heat. So you got to give them a ton of credit. So next up, the Rockets and the Utah Jazz. And so, look, the key out of this is not just that the Rockets win the game 143-105, but they clinch a playoff spot, which we're going to talk about that here in a moment. This is something that they have not done in a while. And so this right here just lets you know how well this Rockets team is really doing. This is their 50th win of the season, so that is huge. And look, man, this is big time for the Rockets because not a play-in situation. They outright qualify for the playoffs, and I think that that is huge for a team that is trying to take a major step. And I love the fact that they got some great contributions from the younger guys, because you look at Jabari Smith Jr., I like him a lot, 15 points, 14 rebounds off of the bench. Then you have Tari Eason, 15 points, 9 rebounds for him. Alperen Şengün, one of my favorite big men in all of the SWBA, 15 points, 14 rebounds, 9 assists. So just 2 assists away from a triple-double. And they shot 54% here on 19 of 45 from 3. And so that is very good field goal percentage here for this team, and just a solid win for the Houston Rockets. And I say it again, man, if they can just continue to just play like this, play with this house money and play to their potential, I really do believe they are going to be a tough out. And just to add to that too as well, look, you had Jalen Green, 22 points. He was +18 in this. He also had a steal and 2 assists, and he had 4 rebounds. And so that is what I'm talking about with Jalen Green. He needs to play a lot more closer to this type of floor. It cannot be situations where he's just going out and scoring like 9 points. And so next up, you have the Mavs versus the Atlanta Hawks. And so, look, the Atlanta Hawks, they've been really solid, I think, in the Eastern Conference. You have the Mavs. I think they've been surging really now that they have Anthony Davis back. They're also getting some other pieces. They got Derek Lively playing in this one. They had Daniel Gafford as well. And so suddenly this team becomes a much bigger team, and it's tougher to score on them. And they're also going to be tougher on the offensive end because they can really get you in the paint. And so, look, this was a good game. It came down to the end in which you see Anthony Davis get the game-winning floater, and then you have Atlanta. They have a chance, and Trae Young just misses the shot. But still, going back to what the Mavs are able to do in the paint, they outscore the Hawks 48-42. I think that that's probably where their real advantage is going to be moving forward. And then when you just look at just what this team is doing as far as the standings are concerned, I think that clearly this is a team that has been surging. Right now, they're ninth, and they're right over top of the Kings and the Suns. I think that both of those teams are really struggling. And so I think that maybe you can start to maybe pencil them in depending on how they're going to finish here. And so I think that this was a huge win for the Mavs. And this is good for Anthony Davis to continue on and keep pushing here. And so next up, the next game that we wanted to take a look at is going to be the San Antonio Spurs and the Nuggets here. And so in this game, you see the Nuggets take another loss, and it's to the Spurs, which I think just really have a very good young core. Stephon Castle, he had 15 points. He had 15 rebounds, and he also had 9 assists. You had Russell Westbrook, 30 points and 11 rebounds and 6 assists. And I think that what you have to note out of this game is that there was no Joker in this one. And so no Nikola Jokic was in this game. And there was also no Jamal Murray. And so both of those players did not play. And so you have to factor that in with this Nuggets team. And you see exactly why I think the Nuggets might be in trouble, because their bench is just not that good. Shouldn't lose to a Spurs team like this, especially a team that didn't have Wemby out there. I think that this team should still be good enough to beat the Spurs, but you got to give them a ton of credit. They win 113-106, and that was at home that they beat them. And so the Nuggets were at home and the Spurs were on the road. And so next up, the OKC Thunder and the Pistons. And so look, man, the Thunder are just good, the period. I think that they're 29-1 against the Eastern Conference. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, look, I'm giving him my MVP. He is the SWBA MVP. I know you can look at Nikola Jokic and you say, yes, he's the MVP. I get it. I just think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, what he does on a night-to-night basis, what he means for this OKC Thunder team, it's too much. And I think that he has just been, to me, the best player across the board this year. Some people can debate that. I get that. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's the guy for me. 33 points. He had 3 assists in this one, 6 rebounds, and he also had 2 blocks. And so that is another thing with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He doesn't just score. He plays both ends of the floor. Jalen Williams played very well, 23 points in this one, 3 assists, 5 rebounds. Chet Holmgren working his way back from the hip injury. I think this is maybe one of his best games, 22 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals as well, and 6 blocks. Wow. And then when you look at the Detroit Pistons, look, they did not have Cade Cunningham, so you got to give them some credit there. I think that they hung in as much as possible. They did get some good contributions here from Tim Hardaway Jr., and then also Jalen Duran didn't necessarily play as well as you wanted him to, or Jalen Duran, I should say, didn't play as well as you wanted to. And so, look, this is a team that's going to make some noise. We're going to talk about where they are in the Eastern Conference here, but, this is a good win for OKC. Tough loss there for the Detroit Pistons. So next up, last game here on the chart was the Clippers and the Pelicans. And so, look, the Clippers, I think that the key takeaway out of this is that Kawhi Leonard is Kawhi Leonard right now. 114-98 in this, and just Kawhi Leonard, he's been on a tear. And I think that right now, with the way that it has been in the West and just the fact that he's missed a ton of games and he's really just now getting rhythm, you're not really hearing too much about the Clippers. But look, Kawhi Leonard's playing well. Zubac is playing out of his mind. James Harden is playing well. And then also, Norman Powell is playing out of his mind. And then really when you look at some of the role players that they have, they've been playing well. Chris Dunn, he is a guy that I've always liked, coming out of Providence. I think he's super tough with the way that he plays. He had 11, he had 7 rebounds, he had an assist there. Nicholas Batum, he has played in some big moments with the Portland Trailblazers. I know it hasn't really been, the type of seasons that maybe he's wanted, but he's definitely a role player that can get it done for you. And Drew Ebanks, look, he's a guy I think that you could say he's a serviceable big off the bench. And I love the fact that they have Bogey coming off the bench as well. That is a player that they got from Atlanta. He can simply shoot the basketball. So he had 16 points. He was plus 20 in this one. And so, look, as long as Kawhi Leonard is healthy, playing 38 minutes like he did in this one, had 28 points plus 14, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and then you're led by Zubac and James Harden doing their thing. This is a team that can be very scary. And so getting it done in last night's action. And so with that being said, we're going to jump over to the standings real quick and look at some teams that just locked up some things. Going to move that out the way for us. And so, look, the Cavs, we knew that they locked it up. We see that the Celtics are locked up there at 2. You see that the Knicks and Pacers are in right now. 48 wins for the Knicks and then 45 for the Pacers. Talked about how they've really been surging right now. Pistons right now, they haven't secured the spot officially, but right now they're 5th over the Milwaukee Bucks that are right there. Maybe they could jump them here. Then you got just fighting for these play-in spots right now between 7, 8, and 9. What that's going to look like, because you got the Magic, you got the Hawks, and you got the Heat. They're all right there, and so that can change here within the next 6 games or so. Next up, looking at the Western Conference really quickly, and so we got to go ahead and congratulate the Houston Rockets. I believe this is the first time that they've qualified like this since maybe 2019, I want to say. Got to go back and look at that. And so, 2019, the Rockets now officially qualified for the playoffs with a young team that I think is up and coming. And they got a lot more growth. I think that they could still maybe go out and get a free agent or so, but not looking at the offseason, just looking at this team right now, they got a ton of potential. You got the Lakers at 3. You got the Nuggets at 4, Warriors at 5. You got the Timberwolves at 6, and then Clippers 7. Grizzlies 8, and then Mavs 9, and the Kings at 10. And so, look, I think that between all of those teams, I think we're looking at just simply positioning. I think the Warriors certainly can be one of the more scarier teams right now at 5, especially now that they have Steph Curry back, going to get back into the rhythm. He had a huge game against the Grizzlies, which we're going to talk about that in a moment, all the things that came out of that game. And then you got the Timberwolves. Look, quietly, they probably have the second, third best player in the league, depending on how you look at it. I think Anthony Edwards at some point will be in that MVP conversation as well. Looked terrific against the Denver Nuggets here a couple nights ago. The Clippers, we've been talking about this with Kawhi Leonard, Zubac, Harden. Like, these guys are really starting to step it up. And they also have Coach Lue. I think that they have maybe one of the better coaches here that can take you home in Coach Ty Lue. And then when you look at the Mavs, we talked about this. They're getting their bigs back, so that's going to be a factor. The Kings, we saw this movie before with DeMar and also, too, with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. But I wanted to focus now with the Grizzlies before we jump out of here. And this is what I'll say about the Grizzlies. Look, right now, they're 8th, and they do have Ja Morant back. But currently, look, this is a team that they have not won since they've made the coaching change. And I'm not going to go into just really what happened into that game, with the gestures and things like that, because here's what I'm going to say about that. I'd expect that next season from the competition committee, the way that celebrations and things happen in games, I expect for those things to change. I'm going to say that. So I do think that you're going to see a change with the competition committee. That's number one, in what's going to be acceptable when you make shots and things like that. That's number one. Number two, this is what I'll say about this and this situation. I think that if I'm the GM, I'm saying to myself this: we fired the coach. We've lost games we haven't won since then. I have to look at this roster and ask myself, is this a team that can really make it out of the Western Conference? Can it win an SWBA championship? And I think that as constructed, I don't see that happening. And I would say, okay, you have Ja Morant, who is on, I believe now, the second year of $100 and maybe $97 million contract. So it's a 5-year deal. He's on year 2. I think that at this point, man, it's time to probably pick up the phone or listen to those conversations and explore, I think, a possible trade and maybe starting to get this franchise in a different direction. Because I just think that as constructed, not sure that he would necessarily be the player that's going to lead you there. And I would say this, look, like Kevin Garnett said, anything is possible. But I think that this is a young man that's going to win, some games. He's going to be top 20 in the SWBA. I don't think he's going to win multiple series. And then I worry sometimes with the injuries and things like that. And then also, too, you have to worry about maybe some things that could happen off the court as well. And so, with that being said, look, that is today's show, a bit longer than we wanted to. And so make sure that you go ahead, you press that like and that subscribe button. And as we always say, see the game, be the game. I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.